Hello, my name is Neville Cox and I'm a professor in the law school here in Trinity College Dublin, where I'm also the school's Director of Undergraduate Teaching and Learning. And it's my great pleasure to welcome you and to introduce you to this law school and to the courses of study which we provide for our outstanding students. Perhaps I might start by just telling you a little bit about the law school. So it's Ireland's oldest law school. It, as you probably know, is the law school where people like Mary Robinson, former President of Ireland, and UN High Commissioner for Human Rights were educated. It's also the law school which has seen extraordinary professors throughout the year who have been quite remarkable in terms of their contribution to public service. I'm talking of the likes of Professor Mary McAleese, again former President of Ireland, Kader Asmal, former Minister for Health in South Africa, and more latterly people like Senator Ivana Bacik and a huge number of others who've contributed very significantly to the public life of Ireland and the world. Our law school is part of a great and ancient university, 425 years old, a university that has produced Nobel Prize winners, but more importantly for me, that has, through the centuries and the decades and the generations, produced graduates who have been a shining example of all that's best in Irish society. And I would love to think that you might consider becoming part of what is a vibrant academic community in the law school in Trinity. This is an important thing to note. A university properly should be a community of staff and of students and of alumni who are committed to the pursuit of truth and knowledge and for the betterment of global and domestic society. I believe that the community in our law school over the last 30 plus years that I've been involved with it is a very strong one. It's a community where our staff are absolutely committed to the well-being of our students and absolutely committed to their academic and personal development. So I can assure you that should you choose to come to study in Trinity in the law school, you will be treated with great respect and with an absolute commitment to your development as individuals. So what then might you study within our law school? Well, we have a number of options, and perhaps I might explain the different courses that you can do, and then also link to the legal profession and to qualifications for the legal profession, because the reality is that a significant number of our students, though by no means all, will ultimately want to end up as lawyers in one field or another. So our school offers a variety of programs to our students. One can simply study pure law, and over the 4 years of our undergraduate degree, can study exclusively law courses subject to Trinity's general rules that students will take electives from different areas of the university. Alternatively, you might want to study one of our programs which allows students to combine law with a subject from a different discipline. So we offer law and business, law and political science, law and French, law and German, and in advance of the next academic year and in a direct response to what students have previously told us, or rather prospective students have previously told us they would like to study, a brand new course in law and history. If you choose one of these combined options, in effect what you are doing is studying both law and the partner discipline, and then making a decision during the course of your studies as to whether you would like to major in law or in the alternative discipline. But all these disciplines are linked within the community structure of our school. Our law and political science students, for instance, will socialise and be in a class group with our law students. And our class groups tend to be extremely tightly knit, and students tend to enjoy themselves hugely. What then will your course of study look like should you come to study in our law school? Well, there are certain core subjects which are mandatory for students, and they're mandatory for two reasons. First of all, they're mandatory because we believe that they are critical if a student is properly to understand the various divisions of law that exist. Secondly, they are mandatory because we know that the legal professions, the solicitor's profession, and the bar in Ireland tend to require students either to have done these subjects as a precondition to entering into their courses of study, and as you probably know, a law degree from any university doesn't entitle you to practice as a legal practitioner. You need to do further study, either as a solicitor or as a barrister, in order to be admitted to the professions. But the professional bodies tend to require either that students have done these core subjects in order to qualify to study with them, or else that all students will have to do entrance exams in these subjects, and therefore it makes sense for students to have done these subjects. So most of these core subjects, depending on your course of study, will be mandatory across the first 2 years, although for some of the law and degrees, you may need to do mandatory subjects even in your 3rd and 4th years. The mandatory subjects are actually extremely interesting. They provide a very broad base of knowledge for students across different facets of law, which can be extremely important because we don't know what areas of legal practice our students who wish to become practitioners will ultimately end up in. So you'll do things like criminal law, contract law, constitutional law, European Union law, and a number of other subjects, which will give you the broad basis that you need for legal study and indeed for legal practice. In your 3rd and 4th years, which are your degree years, that is to say your degree is calculated on the basis of the results that you achieve in these 2 years, students have a number of options. They can choose elective subjects. That is to say, they can choose from a range of potential options, having regard to what is likely to suit them, both in their studies and in their eventual careers. Alternatively, perhaps in your 3rd year, you might like to study abroad. And whereas this is more difficult in the context of restrictions arising out of the coronavirus, nonetheless, we have a range of very exciting study abroad programs in continental Europe, but also in Hong Kong, in Australia, in America, in Canada, and so forth. And we're linking with the very best law schools in those countries and giving students the option to travel abroad for a semester or indeed potentially for an entire academic year to study there. It really is a wonderful option, and our students who go abroad to study come back deeply, deeply enriched as a result. If you were to choose to study law and French or law and German, that's to say one of the law and language programs, you are actually required to study abroad for your 3rd year. Other students who stay here will, as I say, choose electives from a broad range of options. And in their final year, they will also do a research project. And all students in Trinity now, as part of their degree, must do a research project. This is really important and I think hugely beneficial for students because it enables them to gain important and significant research skills that will stand them for the rest of their academic and professional careers. Now, I appreciate that what I've said is simply outlining the structure of the course. But what perhaps is more difficult to explain, but just as important, is the excitement in seeing students develop academically. And our students do this. I am unequivocally of the view that our most important resources within the school, that which really makes us, in my view, stand out, is the quality of our staff, who are often the leading legal researchers in their area in the country and potentially in Europe, but also the quality of our students. Our students, whatever background they come from, whether they come straight from school, or whether they come as mature students, or whether they come through access routes, our students are engaged and eager and magnificent, and such a huge pleasure to teach. And it's wonderful for us as professors to see our students develop and to feel proud of them as they leave the law school enriched and set up to be really valuable players insofar as Irish social, political, business and legal life is concerned. What do our students tend to do when they leave? Because I'm sure that's also of relevance to you in deciding whether or not to choose law as an option. Well, there are a number of things that students can do, and I should say that ultimately there's no single answer to this. Our students go on to all sorts of diverse career paths as actors or singers or librarians or whatever. But perhaps there are certain standard career paths that a lot of students would choose. A lot of students will eventually become solicitors. Some will choose to be barristers, and not necessarily solicitors and barristers in the Republic of Ireland. A number of our students will take the New York bar exam, and one of the remarkable things about an Irish law degree is that it entitles you to sit for the New York bar exam without having done any kind of law degree in an American university. Many of our students would go to practice in England or in Wales as solicitors there, and some, of course, travel further afield and practice in yet more exotic locations, as it were. Many of our students will choose to go into business, perhaps into consultancy or into tax consultancy or whatever. Some will become employment consultants. It really is important to make the point that our law degrees aren't conveyor belts to particular kinds of careers. Rather, in the context of a law degree, you get taught, in effect, how to think logically, coherently, and as a lawyer. And these are skills which stand to students irrespective of what degree they're doing. Now, I've been in this law school, where I'm currently sitting, for a very long period of time. And I'm really proud of it. I'm proud to have watched it develop, and our law school is consistently developing. It's developing with the emergence of very important centres on constitutional rights and so forth and so on. It's emerging through research specialisms, and I should say that many of our students, when they graduate, will go on to do master's degrees or PhD degrees, or become lecturers or researchers or academics. And we have such a strong research culture in this school. And that really stands to a student in terms of his or her education. Because if you're being educated by someone who is research intensive in a particular area, then as you can imagine, the quality of your teaching is going to be significantly enhanced. I believe our law school is growing and expanding with very exciting plans for future development. But at its core, it's retained the values which have surrounded it for the last 50 years. Values of commitment to student well-being, values of commitment to excellent teaching, and values of commitment to ensuring that our students are set up when they leave for the very best of careers. And that's why I am so proud of this university, so proud of this law school. Trinity, as I said, is 425 years old. The cobblestones in our beautiful front square have been walked over by thousands and thousands and thousands of graduates over the centuries. Yet it is constantly looking forward. It's looking forward to new challenges. And of course, the situation in relation to coronavirus presents very significant challenges. Trinity is at the forefront of trying to meet new challenges, of trying to be cutting edge in all that it does. Our law school is very much part of this. Yes, it's committed to its past, because its past is important, and the traditions on which it is based form the basis for everything that's good about the law school now. But whereas it is cognizant of its traditions, it is in no sense resting on its laurels. We want to look forward. We want always to ensure that what we do is the best that it can possibly be. We benchmark ourselves against what's happening in Oxford, in Cambridge, in Harvard, in Sydney, in the great law schools that we would regard ourselves as being comparable to. We benchmark ourselves against top standards in terms of what contemporary university teaching is about. And especially, we seek to provide our students with the warmest sense of community that's possible. We really look to support the very many student societies that work out of our law school, and they are truly excellent, and our students have a wonderful time within them. We seek to ensure not merely the academic development of our students, but also the personal development, the realization that really the ages that students come in to do university degrees at don't matter. This is a formative experience, and we want it to be a wonderful experience. It's my hope that you will consider coming to Trinity. It's my hope that you'll consider coming to Trinity Law School. But why is this my hope? I don't suppose it's necessarily the case that we need to sell our courses. They tend to fill their quotas quite easily. But I hope you consider it because I think it is something wonderful. I think what we provide to students is something wonderful. And I would love you to be a part of it. One final point, because this often gets asked. What kind of person makes a good law student? What sort of interests would someone normally have that would suggest that they will be good at law or will enjoy law? Well, the answer is that there's no fixed answer to this. We get a range of students with a range of background expertises in terms of what they've done in school and so forth and so on. So there's no set answer. But if I were to generalize, I would say that students who like logical arguments, students who like debating, students who like the use of language, students who are interested in politics, students who are interested in history, all of these different kinds of students tend to settle in especially well into our law school. Now, this doesn't mean that if you aren't interested in politics, for instance, that law isn't for you. Absolutely not. The reality of the situation is, law is an interesting and noble discipline that will appeal to very, very many people from very diverse backgrounds. Lawyers occasionally have bad reputations as ambulance chasing, money grabbing, greedy people. I think this is unfair. Law itself is the most noble of disciplines. It is about ensuring that society and individuals can regulate their behaviour in a way that is just and fair. So if you're committed to justice, if you're committed to the resolution of disputes in a logical and fair manner, then I think that law is for you. Sometimes students or prospective students ask me, well, why would I choose Trinity Law School over any other law school in the country? And it would be easy to give a glib answer to this question, and I don't want to do that. The reality is all the law schools in Ireland are of very high quality, and I'm friends with staff on all these law school faculties. For me, and it is purely for me, Trinity is special. With its beautiful campus, with its ancient heritage, with its picturesque setting in the heart of Dublin City, but especially with its commitment to the highest possible quality of research, of teaching, and of student welfare. For me, it genuinely is special. I'd love to think that sometime I can welcome you to study in this law school of which I'm so proud. Thank you so much for listening to me.